My name is Ryan Flynn. I'm the Executive Director for the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association. Prior to taking over NMOGA, I was the Secretary of Environment and Natural Resource Trustee in the state of New Mexico and worked in state government for approximately 6 years, almost 6 years, prior to taking this role. I want to thank Representative Pierce for recognizing me, and I want to recognize Representative Pierce as well, who just had to step out of the room, but he has been a tremendous leader, and his district is home to one of the most resilient and productive oil and gas plays in the world, the Great Permian Basin. I want to talk to you a little bit about New Mexico's oil and gas industry and talk to you about some challenges to oil and gas development on federal lands in New Mexico and suggest some opportunities for improving BLM's operations in New Mexico. I want to be very clear that my goal here today is not in any way, shape, or form to criticize BLM individually. We have had a tremendous working relationship with BLM staff and leadership, and we look forward to continuing that working relationship moving forward. But like any large agency, there are several opportunities for improvement, and I believe Secretary Zinke has inherited a difficult situation, but he is more than capable and up to the task for turning things around in a positive direction. New Mexico's oil and gas industry is the most important economic industry to the state of New Mexico. Last year, in 2016, New Mexico's oil and gas industry contributed $1.6 billion to the state's general fund, our budget. That equaled roughly 25.8% of the budget last year in 2016. The total budget was about $6.2 billion. In the last 10 years, oil and gas typically contributes about a third directly to the state's general fund. This money goes directly to roads, hospitals, schools, that infrastructure in the state would simply not be possible without the oil and gas industry's contributions. Our industry also employs over 100,000 people in the state of New Mexico, a state with about 1.8 million people. New Mexico also has one of the highest poverty rates in the country, with almost a quarter of our population living below the federal poverty line. So oil and gas jobs are extremely attractive in our state, given that the average wage on an oil and gas rig is about $75,000 a year. Nationally, New Mexico is one of the top energy producing states in the country, ranking 5th in crude oil production and 8th in natural gas production. Even during a prolonged period of low prices, New Mexico's oil and gas industry has remained resilient. In the last 8 months, we've seen major acquisitions and purchases in New Mexico totaling over $13 billion. The New Mexico portion of the northern Delaware Basin has recently been the focal point of some of the most expensive acreage basis oil and gas acquisitions in the world. In calendar year 2016, New Mexico was the largest producer of oil and gas from federal lands, accounting for over 78 million barrels of oil and over 770,000 cubic feet of natural gas. New Mexico, the biggest challenge to oil and gas development on federal lands in New Mexico remains regulatory uncertainty at BLM. And I think the best illustration of this issue is to look at the Permian Basin and to look at the development in West Texas compared to the development in New Mexico. As of June 16, 2017, there were 59 rigs running in the New Mexico Permian versus 309 in the Texas Permian. The main difference is the Bureau of Land Management. BLM's Farmington Field office takes approximately 1 year to process a drilling permit, an APD. BLM's Carlsbad Field office also takes approximately 250 days to process a drilling permit. Right-of-ways take approximately a year or more, depending on the field office. Overall, BLM suffers from a lack of staffing, a poorly designed and cumbersome new system, the AFMIS 2 program, and systematic irregularities in the permit processing protocols. These delays translate directly into lost revenue for federal and state stakeholders alike. Our estimates are that approximately $1.4 million in federal royalty and $831,000 in state severance tax is deferred each day based on the current backlog at BLM's offices in New Mexico. This financial impact is huge in a state like New Mexico, where we face prolonged budget issues in light of the low market low market pricing for oil and gas. I will conclude by just noting that there are many opportunities to improve BLM's operations in New Mexico, such as simple edits to the AFMIS 2 program, agreements with state regulatory authorities to transfer some of the tedious work of processing permits from BLM to state offices like our Oil Conservation Division, and BLM making use of existing laws such as categorical exclusions to allow for expedited review and approval of permits. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.